joining us. It's an absolute honour to have one of the original Guerrilla Girls with us here. And we wanted to talk to you about that because we've been heavily influenced by you. We have a new single out, Forget Me Not, and our video.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Our video is an homage. It's a love letter to you ladies and all the work that you did. So I just want to thank you, and we wanted to have this discussion.
Yes.
Sabrina, Naya, Pia,
and Alice Neel,
and Alice Neel.
Guerrilla Girls.
So, of course, Alice Neel is not your real name, and we appreciate that you are going to stay incognito in the fashion of the Guerrilla Girls.
Yes.
And for those that don't know, and I think, growing up in London, I certainly didn't know about the Guerrilla Girls. I don't know if it was my generation or if it was being outside of New York, but we wanted to just have you tell us a little bit,
give you
for those that don't know,
Yes,
who were the Guerrilla Girls? When did they start?
Yes. We started, it was a group of women, and it started in 1985. There was a core group, it was just 7 women, and we weren't even having named Guerrilla Girls then. But they were postering like flyers on the street, in the street, not posters yet. And I saw it, and it was all about the absence of women in the art world, and I was very moved by it, and I mentioned it to somebody. And who is this group? And then I got a phone call saying, do you want to come and be part of the group?
Wow.
So at that time, they blindfolded me. They made it even more mysterious. And when I went to the place where we had that was the first meeting. I took off the blindfolds and was like, pretty much knew each other.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, it was a pretty small group at that point.
So they kidnapped you into the group. That's like a proper secret society initiation, if
so
ever
much
I
fun.
did.
Yeah. But I knew where we were going from the smells and the city, because I grew up here more or less.
Were you terrified or were you excited?
I was excited. No, I was, I recognized the voices of who was abducting me. So I thought I was pretty safe. Yeah. And the catalyst for starting this group was the show at MoMA, where it was the show of contemporary art. And again, we were hit over the head so many times with this. It was just a couple of women in it, the token women, everybody knows their names, and mostly men. And we knew in our gut that something was wrong. We just felt it, and so that's where it came from, here, right in the uterus. And we knew there was something wrong, but we didn't know how to address it or pinpoint it or explain it. So when we got together, we yacked a lot about all this stuff, and we decided we need to get real answers, have real numbers. So there's no computer back then.
Right.
So we looked at the annual reports in Art in America, and we counted how many women had shows in these galleries and this, and it was, and we knew it was bad, but when we saw it, it was like, oh my God, we got to do something about this. So we called ourselves the consciousness of the art world, and we just our job was just want to make people aware of the hypocrisy, this horror that was happening, that affected us, because we knew who we were. We were artists. We weren't being heard or being understood. I grew up in an age where no women artists were even talked about or mentioned in the history books, nothing.
Right.
And the numbers were so appalling. That's when we started the posters, and we decided to use a certain style. We wanted to make feminism sexy and funny in order to be attractive, so people would hear it. So, because feminism had a bad rap, it was like a naughty word, a bad word. Women hate them who hated men. It was just off the charts, and it's not so far. It's better, but it's still, people are still resistant to that word. But it only means that you just want equality.
Absolutely. No, it's interesting because there's this idea that evidence-based campaigning, we talk about it all the time, that has always been the best types of campaigns, where it's factual based. And I love the idea that all these women, these cool artists in New York downtown, got together, abducted each other, and then sat and did a bunch of stats.
That's it. It came from the uterus, but it came out.
It came out as mathematics.
Yes, it did.
To that point, I was curious, what was the creative process like with this group of 7 women at the time? And I'm sure that probably grew a bit. You know, we're 3 women who write songs together, and there's, you know, everybody sort of has a role, you know, has their strengths and weaknesses. What was the collaborative process like?
We had no hierarchy, or there was no labels or roles. We wanted to be sort of this just collaborative effort. Mm-hmm. And I think it is better when a group is smaller. That, you know, we had so many people that were behind us and were Guerrilla Girls in the heart, but it always works a little better when it's not so large.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we just would hash things out, you know, so fighting sometimes. And,
It's all the process. It's part of the process.
It was all good, you know, like we sisters. And at the time when we were really working on a very important poster that we did called The Advantages of Being a Woman Artist. That, I think, is one of our classics because we worked so hard on it. You know, there were so many different points of views about how to handle and how to use it, and it still holds up. But I was pregnant, and we had meetings sometimes at my house, and I was pregnant at the time. I was like this. And one of the we invited a couple of new members, and they came. And one of the women in the group, who was one of them in the beginning with me, we were just back and forth, arguing. And this young woman who came into the group, she got so scared, she thought I was going to go into labor. Oh, I chose Alice Neel. We decided we wanted to take the names of deceased women artists to keep them alive and to keep anonymous. It was important for us to be anonymous because we wanted our message out there. We didn't want people to be bogged down with who we were. Some of us had very visual and successful careers. Some of us didn't. We were all different levels of where we were as artists in the art world.
Right.
But I was in a show at the Whitney Museum downtown. 1984 it was, and it was called Portraits on a Human Scale, and I had a painting in it. It was a painting of my mother with a high ball and my Uncle Milty. It was one of the very human scale, and Alice Neel was in the room. There was all these broken up rooms. She was in the same room as me.
Wow.
I loved her work.
Yeah.
And I was so excited about sharing the room with her.
Of course.
She was she's an amazing artist, but her story is amazing too.
So Alice, I'd love to know, like, what parallels do you see with your movement, with the Me Too movement, and like, what advice can you give women trying to make a stand and use their voice?
Oh, I really think it's so important, the fact that we have been stifled and so fearful of saying what's happening to us. Being shameful about being raped or date rape or being... I think the Me Too movement is so inspiring. And a lot of people focus on the few women that might have made up a story. Let's stop.
Yeah.
And we need to believe the women and listen.
Yeah.
So I think just the more we talk about what's happened to us and speak up and call out the person who's doing something horrible, that's going to make the difference. It's anything that's when you feel shame-based, that's the muffle on your mouth. That's what empowers this bad behavior to continue.
Yeah, and I think we were talking a little bit about this as well earlier. You know, so you say like bringing in men, and it is important to acknowledge that people who are in a position of power must speak up for more marginalized groups before more marginalized groups can empower themselves. It shouldn't just be up to those marginalized groups to speak up for themselves first. And we were talking about the diversity of the Guerrilla Girls, and
when we started out, we were white women.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what talk about the consciousness of the art world. We consciously looked around and said, "Wow, what's wrong with this picture? this is not. We gotta.
Yeah, because
we
the
gotta
Guerrilla Girls
include
were
other voices.
Sure.
So that's what we did.
And the Guerrilla Girls posters were very vocal about standing up against racism as well as equality for women too. So obviously there's a conflict in the fact that the group itself wasn't diverse. And
Yeah.
so I
It
guess
was a
the question
learning
is like,
curve
how
for
did you
us.
overcome that?
It's a learning curve. It really kind of opened our eyes to the idea that we always have something to learn and evolve, and we were constantly figuring out. But the fact, I was so proud and happy, the fact that we could recognize it
Yeah.
and do something about it. That's all it's about. You know, I mean, it's, if you're ignorant, that's not the crime. But when you're told the answer
And you
and you don't do something about it, then you're just stupid and cruel.
Right.
You know, it's a whole...
We've been asking you a lot of serious questions tonight, so we got to think of some more fun ones right now.
I've got one.
Okay.
So, if you could think of one movie that would describe the attitude of the Guerrilla Girls, what movie would that be?
Huh.
That's a good one.
Oh, I'm a movie lover, so
Oh,
it's
yeah?
a tough one. But I'm going to say two things.
Okay.
I'm just rewatched the John Adams series on HBO or something, and some of the scenes where they're arguing about. I mean, they're all white men, so we didn't look like it at all. But that was, I thought, it reminded me a little bit of our meetings. But I also think the movie Thelma and Louise, without going off the cliff. We stay on the ground and we keep working.
If there's one quintessential New Yorker, dead or alive, that you could get takeout with, who would it be?
Oh my!
And what would you get?
Oh my gosh! I wouldn't have the food answers. I mean, maybe we're talking about Alice Neel. That would be nice to talk to.
That
her.
would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Would
you both call each other Alice?
Yeah, I guess we'd have to. Or maybe we'll be in another dimension. We can meet halfway.
There you go.
When new kind of food came in, when I was younger, there was no Japanese restaurant. The Japanese restaurant opened in the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
Oh, forget the fucking pizza.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, we're so grateful to have you.
Thank you, Alice.
Put on the nose